Iran has launched a broad series of strikes on the Gulf and on Gulf energy and industrial infrastructure, including major ports and fuel storage facilities. Is this a tactical response to US-Israeli strikes or a deliberate escalation aimed at undermining Gulf economic stability?
Both. They clearly are responding to the Israeli and American strikes, and they clearly want to undermine Gulf stability, and by moving into direct Gulf infrastructure, energy and otherwise, they're hoping to finally achieve their aim, which from the beginning was clearly to get the Gulf nations to pressure the U.S. to end the war without making any demands of Iran. That seems to have somewhat backfired, because instead of Gulf pressure on the U.S. to end the war, what we've seen is an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal by the UAE's ambassador to the U.S. demanding an escalation that America should insist on a regime change, essentially, in Iran, more or less. That was the position. I think it probably represented a widespread position in the Gulf. Not clear if Saudi Arabia also is quite there yet, but there's also noises from that quarter, albeit currently still sort of backdoor and theoretical, that they may in the end agree to also join a war against Iran. So if that was Iran's intention, it doesn't seem to be bearing fruit quite yet. But of course, they can always escalate further. Iran is calibrating its response in a way that is meant, I think, to achieve their ends. But who here has miscalculated is simply not yet clear. But if the Americans had hoped decapitation alone and air power alone would bring about a regime change, clearly without having done significant prep work on the ground, such as to compel a military coup or divisions in the IRGC, which appears not to have happened, then it's clear that they would have been wrong. And a month later, the Iranian regime, even though shorn of its previous leadership mostly, continues to fight.
As we've just heard, Finland's defense ministry has said there was a suspected drone in the southeast region of Finland. Does this represent a new threat for European airspace security, especially near NATO's eastern flank?
Whenever you speak of Finland, the suspicion is that they might somehow be threatened by Russia. That's been the history. And that border has actually been strangely tenuous even since World War II. But I believe that in this case, as well as in that of the Baltics, the more likely source is that these are Ukrainian drones that were on their way to strike at Russian infrastructure. Energy infrastructure in particular, and straight off course. And in that case, it would have been unintentional. And the possibility of real damage being caused by these drones was very minor. And so I must say, I don't see here anything that is an escalation, which suggests intentionality, nor truly a new danger. But it does remind us, essentially, that the Ukraine war continues to spread in different ways and now involves mutual Ukrainian and Russian attacks on each other's infrastructure, and also simply hasn't gone away. Russia has emerged, at least at the current accounting, something of a winner from the Iran war, in as much as oil prices have gone up, and that is good for Russia. And the U.S. is so distracted, as are in a sense the Europeans, that less attention is being paid to what Russia is doing in Ukraine. In the various ways, Russia is constantly escalating in Ukraine. Moreover, the world is getting a look at American capabilities, NATO and American potential vulnerabilities to drone attack. In particular, there's a lot of Russian and Chinese spying on the theater of operations in and around the Persian Gulf. And so I think from that sense, it just should remind us all that there's another major war that has gone nowhere. And that is in danger of degeneration, because we do see reports of how the Ukrainians are running out of money.
Thank you so much, Dan, for coming on and speaking to us today. It's a pleasure, as always, speaking with you. Thank you.